Remembering people's names. I'm great at remembering faces and things about people, except for their names. People think I'm inconsiderate, when in fact I just can't remember names half the time. It doesn't help that I can remember massive amounts of dumb trivia and school material, but just not the names of people I meet. My husband is the same way. He always tells people I'm terrible with names, so I won't remember it, but if I see you in 15 years, I'll remember your face. They usually are okay with it.
I worked as a private groom for a family whose previous groom was a world-class groomer and had worked for some of the world's best horse riders. I needed a performance art class for my degree. I took drawing. I made many mistakes and etiquette errors. Did you know you're not supposed to talk to the nude models? I didn't. It's also really frowned upon to request specific positions because you find drawing foreshortening quite challenging. Right. Because we should only take classes in things we already know we're good at.
My third-grade English and math teacher used me a "don't be like him" example and literally told the whole class that I was stupid and would never amount to anything, and they all laughed at me. ADHD? Sounds like you should get tested for ADHD inattentive type. Have you ever been to a professional about it?
When I was in the Navy, I used to get in fairly frequent trouble for the suggestions I made for improving operational efficiencies. Personal change must come from within. Organizational change must come from without. The Fortune 500 company I freelance with would prefer to use an outside vendor for a project, thinking they would do a better job since that's all they do. That vendor then hires me at my same rate, meaning the original company is just paying more for me to do the work I could have done internally. Had an English teacher that said any stories I wrote were bad. I thought that I'd done a good job on it, so I showed it to a different English teacher who said it was brilliant, but I needed to spell check it. This reminds me of the time my class had to write down what we wanted to be. I told my 7th grade science teacher I wanted to be a writer, but I wrote it on an index card. When she saw the index card, she saw my terrible handwriting and immediately looked directly at me and said, "Some of us should reconsider what we want to be." Needless to say, I've been excelling at basically every writing assignment ever. I wrote for my high school and college newspaper, and some even got awards. In fact, I got so many writing achievements with ease that I still laugh about how she judged my writing's worth on the handwriting instead of the actual content.
Well, I went into a coding interview once and the interviewer asked almost only electrical engineering related question. I felt extremely stupid. When I do my 2 hours of daily piano practice, I begin with 5 octaves of scales in every key, major and minor. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. My boyfriend starts his practice the same way. I went through a cycle of thinking they were cool, to finding them annoying, to now where I find them comforting. It's a sound that very specifically reminds me of him.
Sports.
In high school I was really good at debate and aced all my government classes. However, I had to take a pottery class for an art credit. I sucked. Hardcore. My vase looked like some bees had taken crack before they built their hive. The teacher legitimately thought I was special needs. 2 years later I was working retail to help put myself through college. I ran into the teacher one day. "It is so awesome you have a job. Good for you." I felt like Kevin Malone being patronized by Holly Flax. My mother loves to tell this story to her friends. That fucking blows. Throwing is hard. I can hand build literally anything and get praised for it, but I can't fucking throw to save my life. I was this super smart kid who would get 6s and 1F always in math. No one thought to test me for a learning disability the entire time. Turns out it wasn't that I wasn't applying myself, but it was dyscalculia.
When I was 19 I got a job as a pizza delivery driver. I found out I have horrible spatial memory and could never remember the directions to any place I've been before. This was before GPS devices were widespread. My boss really thought I was stupid. He couldn't believe I was going to college and now I have a master's degree. I guess I'll never have that career as a pizza delivery driver.
I was told that I was pathetic because I didn't know how to back a trailer with a pickup at 29 years old.
I'm dyslexic and during secondary school, many of my teachers told my mom that I wouldn't get into college and wouldn't do well in my state exams. I suck at exams but I still managed to get into college and work my way up. I now have 2 masters and I am doing really well in my current job where I am always thinking of out-of-the-box ideas.
In school I was too nerdy for the jocks and too jockish for the nerds. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Smart moves, my friend. Too crazy for boys' town. Too much of a boy for crazy town. The child was an outcast. The bridge, as those people used to be called in my school.
I dropped out of high school a little over a year ago, and 95% of my peers, teachers and administrators of the school openly thought and told me that I wouldn't amount to anything without a diploma.
One of my instructors in Fire Academy had a real hatred for me for some reason.
I am a giant. Everything I own is XXL, or 3XL. I was Air Force and of course all my gear, helmet, armor, etc. is also larger than most. When we would deploy, we had a 2-bag plus backpack rule. I am a Tetris master but even I can only squeeze 6 pounds sugar in a 5 pounds bag, but I needed 10 pounds in there. Getting in trouble for leaving useless shit behind, but having a bag drag where they account for all necessities, like a fucking comb, and shampoo, when I have shaved my head bald since I was 20, is ridiculous.
I was the fish trying and failing to climb the tree, and my boss called to offer me a position swimming. Wow wow wow, shitting on and appreciating your boss. This is a solid one.
I was the fat kid in middle school, and everyone thought I was lazy and stupid. If you were bad at something, then became good at that very same thing later on with practice, willpower, then it's not similar to what Op was talking about. Your name? Once at my workplace, I asked for help to open a box because I really couldn't open it. This one girl I worked with looked at me with disgust and didn't help me. She later talked shit about me and said I'm fucking stupid. I was born with polydactyly and they cut off my 2 extra fingers and fixed a lot of stuff. I can't use all my fingers properly. By the way, fuck you Sarah. Edit. Wow, I never thought that a comment about calling out Sarah's bullshit would be my most upvoted one nor that it would blow up like that. Thank you, kind strangers. I have a feeling those last few sentences should have been your response. My fingers don't work, also fuck you.
I have dyslexia and at age 15 still couldn't tell my left hand from my right. Asterisk I also had a lot of trouble learning to read and write. I got written off by a lot of teachers. Turns out I'm pretty good at analysis even if I struggle with the basics. I ended up with a PhD.
I lived in Argentina from us for a little bit as a kid. At a parent-teacher conference early in the school year. One art teacher had to break it to my parents that I might be mentally disabled because I don't respond or participate. They let her know I didn't speak any Spanish at the time. She had no idea because no one told her and my name is Spanish and it just didn't occur to her. Currently ATM, I am in France for a few months, I can barely speak French and my teachers think I am mentally challenged. Even though I was acing my classes back home.
I mostly judged myself. I'm really glad to hear you came full circle and found something to be proud of. I hope you recognize that it is a mark of your intelligence that you had this epiphany. You're not the art kid while your brother is the smart kid, but instead you're a smart kid who struggled in academics and found success in art, while your brother succeeded in academics and never really pursued art. I'm sure if you took an IQ test you wouldn't perform badly on it. A lot of super smart people just aren't good at math.
My parents used to make me feel bad about being the slowest kid in track and field. I would always struggle even with a 7-minute mile. It wasn't my body that got tired, it was that I felt like I couldn't breathe fast enough. I was always running out of breath and had to stop and catch my breath.
Edit. After re-reading my comment, I judge that it came off as I am very smart material a bit. Sorry. It's important to have skills, but it's more important to have the skill to show off your skills to the world. I'm learning this the hard way on my 20s. The thing I learned is that intelligence is multifaceted, and not necessarily the same as knowledge. Having little knowledge doesn't mean you're dumb. Somebody could be an expert at something like programming yet have poor knowledge of history, politics or culture.
90% of what Albert Einstein quotes on the Internet was not said by Albert Einstein. Internet 2019. You can, make up any quote and attribute it to anyone somewhat famous, and people on the Internet will believe it. Albert Einstein once said, 90% of my quotes on the Internet were not said by me. A while back I had a teacher that sucked. She was very broad while talking about things and I was very analytical. For example, she said, "The papers are on the counter." We had multiple counters, so I asked which one. She accused me of having attention issues. I'm now 2 grades ahead in math. The hardest class to pay attention in.
When I was 7. I was in 1st grade. I only expressed interest in a few things when I was a kid: cooking, making games. My parents told me they were bad careers and made me play soccer and do scouts and other things I hated. I was terrible academically all the way through the end of college, where I studied management, because these things I was told I was supposed to be doing were of zero interest to me. A few years out I taught myself to code, and now I spend my life making games and cooking for friends, and I'm fucking great at it. To be completely fair, the rate the economy is changing is a very modern phenomenon.
I'm autistic, so just take your pick from half of my everyday interactions with people.
Once someone on Reddit started complaining about something and said I wasn't a real man for a bunch of reasons. I had someone tell me once, "You're just jealous you can't get your dick wet." Well, you're right, I can't, because I don't have one. Awards from Neutrum.
Not me, but my brother. When he was in elementary school, when grades are based on things other than test scores, the teacher noted on his report card that he needs to work on his skill at cutting with scissors. I had no idea that scissors could be left or right-handed growing up. Been thinking I didn't know how to use scissors up until like the 6th grade. Left-handers are usually great problem solvers. Probably because almost everything is right-handed and they have no choice.
So many moments in my life. I was unfortunately born a girl who likes boy things. It is never too late to follow your dreams. Totally not your fault, do not blame yourself about this in the slightest. Shame on all parents who squash their kids. Kills me.
I currently work at my local McDonald's. I'm 16, and since I live in Quebec, it's a French establishment. French is my 3rd language, but I'm still constantly treated like I'm stupid when I don't completely understand. The worst part is, I'm very eloquent in my 1st and 2nd language, Bulgarian and English. Public speaking and writing are my passions. But nobody at work thinks I could possibly be intelligent because I'm being judged on my fluency in my 3rd language. Never mind the fact that speaking 3 languages when you're in high school is more than any of them can do. Shit is frustrating. That's Quebec for you. Don't let them shit on you, they just hate anyone whose 1st language isn't French.
This was basically my childhood, because I was bad at math. I guess most children goes through this, which is very sad. Ironically, once you get to college all the math professors have forgotten how to do simple math as well. I remember all of us checking like super basic math they are doing on the whiteboard cause they'd fuck it up 1 times in 4 but we're completing these insane proofs.
Edited 27 days ago. I read this twice and still don't get the point being made here. When I said Albert Einstein once said if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree it will live its whole life thinking it's stupid, and they said he never said that. Fish are fucking stupid. For the confused or curious among us, he didn't say it apparently.
Playing sports growing up, I would make these comically bad errors. The ball would hit me directly in the face, or I would swing at a pitch way too late. Everyone gave me shit, even the coaches and parents. I kept playing because I enjoyed being active and around my friends, but I never understood why no matter how much I practiced I struggled with basic things that everyone else could do without thinking. I know the pain, mate. Was forced to play volleyball in high school even though I obviously couldn't follow the ball. I was once looking right at it but couldn't spot it, and it hit me right in the face. Turns out I have a retinitis pigmentosa, which not only means I can't follow objects, but I can't see at night, my peripheral vision sucks, and anything that requires precision movement is out of the question. This was kind of judging as well as being judged. Due to the shift of computing from desktop and laptop computers towards mobile phones, we're actually seeing a reversal of the trend that young people can type well. I was an appalling speller until I moved to using a computer full-time in sixth form, aged 16, then I became an excellent speller. My brain just worked better when typing.
Me judging another guy. I served with this guy who we all believe was a complete idiot. Just everything he said and did was idiotic. While we were in Thailand, he spent an hour talking to a Thai Marine. I will be damned if he didn't learn enough of the language to take a taxi around a city. I firmly believe he would have become fluent if we left him there for a week. I was a ballerina and I always had a hard time picking up choreography. Other dancers could watch a dance once and know it, some could even do it from a video. I needed to be shown a combination a few times, and to go over it a few more, and even then I would forget it the next day. I felt really stupid. I had a similar experience, picked up ballet after my undergrad and I was terrible, but enjoyed it. Bumped myself up into a higher standard class where everyone could just effortlessly recall routines from one viewing, and I just couldn't. Really hurt my self-esteem, and the girls in the class were very isolating to me, the sole guy there, which sucked. Took up rock climbing after, and love it. There's a real stigma against sex writing among a lot of writers, that somehow it doesn't count, or that it's just lazy trash. On a lot of writers' forums, you'll see people looking down their nose at the smutwriters, with the implication that they only write smut because they lack the talent to write anything more substantial. Weirdly, the people who get most arsy about it tend to be sci-fi, fantasy authors, which are the genres that generally have just about the same low bar to entry and chaff to wheat ratio that erotica and sex writing has. Especially when you consider the amount of pointless shitty sex scenes in sci-fi and fantasy. One teacher was intent on holding me back the first year in school, kindergarten, elementary, age 5, because I sucked at arts and crafts. The time my middle school art teacher called my parents because she thought I was purposefully mocking her by making my art bad. I literally can't draw beyond a third grade level unless I am copying an object right in front me. Has she really experienced such vindictive kids? My mother had borderline. She caused a lot of trouble. She constantly judged me for not remaining emotionally sound in incredibly stressful situations, e.g. threatening to kill herself, put bars on my windows, send me to psyche hospitals, blaming everyone else for fights when she always overreacted and caused them in the first place, saying I ruined Christmas dinner because I knew she would be there and didn't want to show up. She was so scary I couldn't even speak to her when she pried the lock off my bedroom door and sat down on my bed to talk to me. She always called me a mute and said I had mental problems. Save for some obvious residual issues that crop up in anyone who went through this, I have very little problem, emotion-wise or communication-wise, with other people besides her.
I was forced to attend art classes and team sports phys ed in school, mandatory until year 11 art or 13, respectively. Those two made sure that my average was ruined. I can't draw or throw a ball even if my life depended on it, got the grades to match, and b, in my most awkward social phase, I got humiliated regularly by well-meaning teachers who couldn't understand that being good at math and physics does not translate into drawing or predicting a ball's movement, forcing me to do it again, and again, and again, while the whole class enjoyed the show. I understand your frustrations. However, I think it's important to work on body coordination, at least until you have a basic proficiency. It comes into play often in life, from slipping on ice in the winter to assembling IKEA furniture in your home. Was contacted by a recruiter and pitched a job opening that fit my description perfectly, as recruiters do. I pushed back and asked to see the exact listing, so I could verify. I questioned a bit on the requirements that stated specific programming knowledge, and was assured multiple times that, while it was on there, it wasn't the primary job function and they don't need a programmer. I had a similar experience, though not to quite the same degree. Had a phone interview with the hiring manager for a data analyst role where I was clear that my SQL knowledge was very limited and learned through web development rather than data analysis. Told him I wanted to improve my SQL but wouldn't lie that I was proficient already.
My husband loved to read as a child despite his mild dyslexia, but in second grade he started to really struggle with school. After being held back for a year and being told by a teacher that he was a slow kid, another teacher took note of the oddity of my husband's change of learning. He suggested to his mum to have his eyes checked. Turns out my hubby is blind as a bat and needed glasses. Sadly, he never recovered his love of reading.
When HR at a company had me interview for a different position than I had applied for. The position they interviewed me for was one I knew nothing about, and told them as much. Despite me telling them before each round of interviews that they had made a mistake, I still had to endure a full day of people asking me questions that I had no answer to. They had someone in mind but needed to interview someone objectively worse than their preferred person, so it didn't look like favoritism.
Visualize. 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 You're not visualizing. Try visualizing it and base it on that. Judged the country kids in my English class for being dumb fucks, until I did an autos class. What I found incomprehensible, they could do with ease. I had become the dumb fuck. Respect the fact that you admitted you were the one judging people. I had a similar experience in grade 8. We had done a geography test and the kid whose test I marked literally got 5% on it. I was pretty judgy until a few days later when he taught me in great detail how a car engine works.
Went through a 2-year community college biomed program. Had only 3 or 4 different teachers throughout the 2 years and we had a small class. My grade school teacher said my handwriting was so bad I must think I was training to be a doctor. When I worked on farms I was a simple farm hand, no one thought much of me because I was the bottom of the totem pole, and one day a sheep was having trouble giving birth to her babies. No matter which way the vet and my boss turned her or helped her, she couldn't give birth.
I'm a chemistry major at university here in the US. I took a few extra years to get started, and spread the courses out over about 6 years rather than 4. I'm 26, now, but fellow students always assume I'm the idiot of the group project. They're mostly right, they're all better at chemistry. But I'll work on the projects till 2 a.m. if it means I learn the material and can sleep knowing I did my part. Also I'm a bartender, and most of these guys act like they've never interacted with people socially, let alone step foot in a bar. I'm hopeful my social skills and work ethic will take me further than my degree. When I went to a state university, they opened the freshman orientation with that quote, then said that they want to help build students' curriculum to their needs and what works with them. And then we were given very specific classes that we needed to take, several of which the professors said were weed out classes. They proceeded to judge every fish on its ability to climb. So I'm from India and education system in here used to be really bad. We have special exams known as board exams and those scores can help us get into a better college, uni. The issue here is, our teachers force us to write the exact same way the answers are given as in the textbook, including the punctuation. I know it sounds crazy but it's true, nothing must be skipped. The teachers who must help the students to actually study and understand the concepts, ask us to mug things up BC. All they want is 100% pass percentage and not the proper education. And me on the other hand was terrible at memorizing and remembering stuff if I don't understand the concept in the first place, so I failed some subjects during my monthly tests and for that I was made to feel like I'm stupid and useless, and the only thing I told to myself was this quote. But I got some decent scores at my final exams, thanks to YouTube.
Excuse me, do you know where I can find garlic powder here? I don't work here, lady. USMC judges you on your ability to run. No matter how good or bad you are at anything, if you can run fast, you are presumed better at everything. It overcomes crimes, mental retardation, and absolute stupidity. Yeah, that's dumb. I don't see how that correlates with your ability to eat crayons.
Threw a fish at a tree. Wait, SpongeBob. We have technology. I once tried to cut down the largest tree I could find in the forest, with a herring.
I see it all the time in the army based on fitness test scores, or even perceived fitness test scores.
Why don't you just keep everything organized, so you don't lose stuff? I used to get the "school is easy. All you have to do is pay attention." I've taken therapy for it. It's not too hard to manage it anymore, but there's always the eventual fuck-up.
So I was a young lawyer, new to trial work, full of awkwardness and insecurity. A couple of times in my first months, I said things so stupid I thought I might get fired. My boss followed me at the elbow to my first trial and he was nervous for me, giving me advice on dozens of things I hadn't asked about and that I suspected were irrelevant. He kept whispering instructions to me at the trial table, even as I was questioning witnesses, getting me confused about what I should be paying attention to, and even whispered instructions as the judge talked from the bench, and finally the judge, who knew my boss, said to him, "Tommy, you shut up and let the boy learn. He'll do fine."
I am very dyslexic. It results in me having the spelling and grammar of a middle schooler, plus it makes me have trouble hearing similar sounding words. Letters and phonic sounds don't always connect to the idea they represent in my head. I listen to the overall idea and not the individual letters, plus it makes me have trouble hearing similar sounding words.
When I get introduced to a new person, but I'm not part of the conversation, I just sit and wait. Then I get told, "Oh, you're really quiet, huh? Had a review at work the other day with a new manager and he was like, 'Your performance is excellent, your colleagues are always positive about you. The only thing I would say is that you're a bit quiet sometimes.'"
I'm 6 feet 6 inches, and I suck at basketball. Should have been 6 feet 7 inches, better luck next life. 6 feet 1 inch woman and have tried various sports time and time again, but I'd just much rather talk shit out than angrily throw balls at people. When people ask if I play sports, they are visibly shook that I never really took to anything.
Maybe for some it won't be a situation like the Einstein quote, but I felt like a fish trying to climb a tree. What kind of asshole do you have to be to make fun of someone at a job interview? Dodge a bullet there.
I was always told how bad sleeping in class was despite acking my classes, and teachers would complain to my parents about how much I slept. I felt so horrible for so long and slept early almost every day to no avail. Turns out I have narcolepsy. So, were you micro-napping? Or out for the whole lesson? Hope you are now supported in managing this.
I'm a dog walker on the side but also run my own online business which makes pretty good money. A lot of the owners really are disrespectful and act as if I'm stupid 'cause I walk dogs to make money. Like I'm not stupid, I'm just trying to lose weight and get extra money while you're sitting on your couch and can't walk your own damn dog but then give me dirty looks." I was teased a lot in middle school, early high school for loving hockey. Would constantly get my knowledge tested, my appearance would get brought into it. Why would a fat girl like hockey? Had someone ask me if it was my passion and laugh in my face when I said yes. That's so awesome. Way to go, make your dreams a reality. Do you work for the league or a particular team? Now you can tell your former critics to go to double hockey sticks. Hey, you're doing computer science, right? Can you fix my PC? More like, can you fix my printer? It doesn't want to print anything. My computer science degree did not train me to fix computers. I am just better at Google than my relatives. I was told by a trainer at work and her equally judgmental friend that I got nothing but boobs just because I act stupid sometimes and don't engage in their so-called intellectual arguments. Fuck, this bitch has got boobs and brains. Empty cans really make a lot of noise.
When I was asked to climb a tree. But you're a fox?
Everything in the internet is true. In kindergarten we were learning penmanship and my teacher was telling us how to write our alphabet, but for some reason I could not write the letters no matter how hard I tried. Since I was able to write the alphabet before, I got very frustrated and starting crying. Had similar experience when trying to learn how to tie my shoelaces. Every adult who tried to help me eventually gave up and I felt so stupid. Then one day my left-handed uncle showed left-handed me how to do it and I learned it immediately. Sinister.